Hey everybody, this is Kicking the Tires. I'm Mason Broughton. I've got with me Luke
Hey,
and Blake
how's it going?
and our special guest Ernie Thompson. This is our second part to the two-part series considering his collection.
The supercharger era has ruined the hot rod part as regular hot rodding because you can't beat one. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Billy Pierce has got twin turbos on a 500 and something cubic inch Camaro, and I haven't got up enough nerve yet to ride in it, but I probably will.
Well, that's something definitely. A lot of these cars nowadays are going for huge power numbers, and you mentioned the lowering cars, different wheels and stuff like that. That's a big thing nowadays that I'm seeing is the customization. Everyone wants their to be their car. They do this, they do that.
Well, that's because that's what you're doing with your 3000 GT, isn't it?
Oh yeah, well not yet. It's currently trying to get brakes on it, but eventually, yeah.
Well, it's like
Yeah, we
the
still got a
truck I
nice
told
surprise
you I
from Ace.
sold for 17. I mean, that had 17 years. It had a 30-inch orange stripe on the hood, all the way through the top and the back. Said Ernie's Picture Framing because I had a business. I put the OAL number before you boys was born. They didn't have like 256. It was AL, which AL on the phone is 25. But, I personalized that, and everybody and their brother knew the truck and all. And the first thing I told the kid when I sold it to him is please take my name off the door. Somebody liable to shoot you, So there you go.
They get stolen,
But
yeah.
I've always had a personalized. I had a Chevy too that we put 11 quarts of paint on it, had diamond dust in it when I was in high school. So
Yeah.
I've always tried to personalize mine, and I'm going to do something to this '96 Sonoma that I just got. My kid actually had it. Me and him jokingly, I've had every vehicle that he's had except he's got a Dodge van, and that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that, boys.
Well, out of all the ones you've had, what's the best modifications you've done to any of your cars that you're real proud of?
Well, the '69 Rambler, we made a gasser out of it. I put a '51 Chevy straight axle under it and set it back and had it all up like a drag car and had a roll cage in it and everything else. And there was in my era was a Stone Woods and Cook drag racing, so I put my friend Jimmy Walden, and then I got a friend John and Steve Malk. So I put Thompson, Malk, and Walden on the door. And then I worked for a man named Marion Bayer, and we put it on the quarter panel to make it look like a race car. And I've had it in the World of Wheels in Annapolis and won a trophy up there. And I've had it in the uh, Louisville, gosh, I forgot the man's name that run the car show over there for forever. Uh, Daggone it, Carl Casper. I've had it over there twice, the old Rambler. As far as modifications, I've done that. I mean, like the Chevy 2 I had in high school, we cut the fender wells to put bigger tires and all of that. I've had headers, and I had a bunch of the C10 pickup trucks. Me and Jimmy Walden. Jimmy done most of the work. I was a parts guy, and he's a body guy. We chopped two '69 Chevy trucks, took 5 inches out of the top, and that was kind of wicked. It was hard to see out of it, but we had a lot of fun with them and all.
As long as you're going straight, we're good.
Yeah, I tried to make the guy mad. He wanted to buy it, and back in the day, I mean, I only had like $1,100 in the truck, and I told him, I said it takes 2,000 cash, and he said he would take it. And then I thought, gosh, I wish I hadn't have sold this. So I told him, I said, I will not sell it to you unless you bring me all $100 bills. And he said, you're joking. And I said, no, sir. He said, I'm coming from Indianapolis. I said, I don't care if you come from Canada. If you don't have me $100 bills, I want to keep it. So sure enough, he showed up on a Saturday morning at the Napa store, and he said he went to three banks, but he had all hundreds. And I was sad because I really wished I'd have kept that truck because it was different. It was before for the time, if you know what I mean. But we had a lot of fun doing that, and one night a pizza and beer kind of got the one door kind of bent up a little bit, so we had to remodify it the next day. But I
Remodified.
think it was the pizza.
Nice way to put it.
I think it was the pizza.
Oh yeah, obviously that's always
Yeah,
against
yeah.
you. So a lot of people getting in. You mentioned the money earlier about all these new cars, how expensive they are. If someone's wanting to get started in cars, do they start with an old car, a classic car? Do they go and get something they've always dreamed of, or they start small and work their way up?
Well, the guy has to almost start what he can do. Mason can work on his, clean them, keep them. But as far as probably paint work, Mason's probably not a painter. because I have a friend that's got an old model Chevy truck and he wants it painted, and a guy priced it $20,000 to paint it. So, and it's got a 427 in it and all that beautiful truck, but you take that you've already got 10 or 15,000. I don't know what he's got. It's none of my business. But even if you had 5,000, you got to think if you put 20 more in it, then you got a $25,000 truck, real quick. So that's what's killed the market today, because my cousin Ronnie Thompson just painted a truck, and they probably had $7,000-8,000 in materials just to paint it, not counting the painter and the work and all of that. So
That's probably spurred the rise of like so many more wraps nowadays. Everyone does wrap
Yes.
instead because it's so much more affordable. You don't like it, oh well. Wear it for a few years till you're tired of it, peel it off, put a new one on.
I'm impressed with the wraps, because I've looked at a few of those and they really, really look good, and you can't hardly tell it, and stuff. The wrap is just a phenomenal way of doing anything anymore. Of course, they're not very cheap and stuff because of everything, everything anymore. I mean, I just can't go to McDonald's unless you spend $10, if you know what I mean, and stuff. So everything in the world is high today. I think COVID did a lot of that.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason why I've held off from restoring the maroon car, because I know whenever you go to restore a car, you definitely got to make sure you love it,
Yes,
because
yes.
once you do it, you are with it for life,
Yes.
because you're never going to get your money back.
Right.
And that's the big thing for me is, right now somebody priced it to me 2 or 3 years ago at 10,000. There's no telling what it is now.
Right.
So I've just basically pushed myself further and further off, and it's only going to keep getting higher, but I just can't justify paying that kind of money.
Almost anymore, a young man that's wanting to get into the car market can almost find someone my age that's getting out that'll sell him something that's already ready to go, and he can do a few modifications. But if you don't watch, you can pay a big price for something, and then you get a lot of money in making it your own and stuff. I looked at a 32 Ford this week, but it was $75,000.
Wow.
And I think of all the many days you got to work to make $75,000. I'm not saying the car's not worth that, but you got to look at, and it's in California, and it would just be terrible that I'd have to go out there to look at it. But,
Oh yeah, that's definitely the big hard part about it is, I mean, you can look on like Facebook Marketplace now or that classiccars.com, and things are really hard to buy sight unseen, because it kind of like with the title of the name, you almost got to go out there and kick the tires. You got to go look at it and see if there's something that's hiding. It might be a 20-foot paint job on it.
Now, would you recommend to someone if they're wanting to get started on a lower budget, find a car with a couple problems that they think they can fix? Or do you want to go and find a more pristine model so you can enjoy it right away?
No, I think a young man needs to learn how to do his own work and make it his own, and that's the only way you're going to learn is to do that. My problem is if I put on a quart of Bondo, I took off a half gallon. I didn't know when to quit. I kept feeling it, and I always went past the point where my friend Jimmy, he could just spread that quart on and hit her 2 or 3 licks with sandpaper, and it's just as smooth as a stable top, because that is his talent. My talent was selling auto parts, so that's the way it was. But it's I would say a kid needs to try something and make it his own, and if he messes up, get someone to help him. But it's according on how much your budget is and what you want to get into, because I'm hoping to get some younger guys in. That's the reason I do my rod run more than a show, because I want a guy to bring one that's not finished, or he's just got running, or and he's proud of it, the way it is. And that's the way we got started in a rod run and stuff. And so we have one of those, on the square every month. And Mason's been there, and a lot of other people, and I've met a lot of good people through that, a lot of good friends.
Well, plus taking and doing the work straight off the bat, like whenever I bought mine, I had to take and replace all the brakes,
Sure.
a lot of the rubber lines and stuff like that to make sure that it'd be roadworthy again. But it gives you pride in your ride, and you get a little bit more willing to go do it. And, plus going out to these car shows or going out to the cruise ins and stuff like that, that's something that you definitely need to do, because Like I didn't know everything about Mustangs whenever I first got on. There's only so much you can find out online.
Sure.
Getting in with somebody like the club I did, you've got a bunch of guys in there that have already been through these problems, and they can help you hand in hand.
Right.
And I think that's why it's probably a good thing for these guys to get involved. That's why I tried to get him to start going to some when he bought his Corvette.
If only it ran.
Now that's a car that's went ridiculous. When I was 17, a friend of mine had a 63 split window, and he wanted to sell it for $1,800, and I didn't have $1,800, and he kept it for years and years, and the next thing you know, he sold just the body for 10,000. You know, it's just crazy. And then last I heard, the car went to California at 100.
Wow.
You know, so but it was completely restored, and you get a lot of money in that, but Corvette really took off, you know, and a lot of the older Mustangs have too. I think Camaros and Mustangs, they must have multiplied because there's more of those on the road today than there was when they was new,
Yep.
you know. And I know they are making remanufactured ones, but they're everywhere, you know. I mean, it's just and it's a beautiful car, you know. The Mustang was neat back in the day and stuff, and when they got started, was 64 and a half. Was
Yeah, I mean, that was the big thing about them. They were trying to be the family affordable
Yeah.
sports car. It wasn't so much that it was a muscle car, but it was just it's something that boasted a little bit of power, and your family could go in and buy it for say $3,000-$4,000 and have a heck of a car.
Yeah, most of them was little I think little 246 on a 3-speed cars, and it was just a phenomenal little family car. And you had room in the back to put your children, and or we didn't use seatbelts or nothing. Nobody was strapped in, you know, and stuff.
I think that was some of our favorite rides because when we went to college together, I'd always drive because I don't trust other people's driving in the first place.
Especially his.
And they'd have they'd have to draw they'd have to draw straws to see which one got the back seat where it doesn't have any seat belts in it.
Only downside, if they could turn too hard, you'll slide from one side to the other.
Yeah, but you couldn't get a better ride out of them. It rode like it was on a cloud.
Yeah, we done that when I was a kid. If you had a nice date you was going on, you really lemon pledged that old leather seat, but you could go around that right corner, she'd slide right over to you, you know. And
Making the
stuff.
moves.
Yeah, making the moves right there with that good old lemon pledge, you know. that was way before the Armor all days, guys. You know, it's funny how everything has evolved, and I can remember the car wash was a quarter, guys. Of course, you know, I'm an old guy, but it was 25 cents, and now it's $3. You know, it's just that crazy how you think about all the way everything's went up. And just like my Monte Carlo, I turned down 20,000. You know, it's crazy. I mean, that's where two fools met, my dad would say, you know, because I should have sold it, but I didn't want to, you know. I sold my Chevy too, and, you know, when I was in I sold it in 77 because I bought that Monte Carlo, but it was a phenomenal car. And even people to this day, after all these years, when they see me, they'll mention that car because everybody knew it, you know, and it was a really nice car.
Well, out of all of them that you've got currently, which one would be the last to go? Say if you were getting rid of them, which one would you hold on just tooth and nail?
Well, the tooth and nail probably be the Monte Carlo, but that Camaro is pretty special because of my dad
Yeah.
buying it. You know, I'd probably hang on to those two and probably die first. But the rest of them, you know, the smart car is probably going to go because I told a buddy of mine the other day, I found out you don't have to be smart to own one. So I'm going to get rid of it probably. And I love a little S10 truck because, you know, it's just something to beat around in. But, you know, I'm still single. I've been single 31 years. So I use that Monte Carlo for dates or to go out and all of that. I haven't died yet. You know, I'm a lot better guy than I used to be. I've slowed up a lot, but I use the Monte Carlo, but I would sell all of them. And I would even hate to get rid of my mom's Buick, but I would sell it before I let the Camaro and the Monte Carlo go because it's just something special about the very first car that you worked and saved. And, you know, I got it down so cheap, Mason, that I didn't take a license plate with me the night I went to pick it up. And the guy told me, he said, I told you to bring a license plate because we cut it to the bone when we sold it to you. And he made me give him $1.50 for a dealer plate, or, you know, the paper one. And another good story for you boys, when I ordered this Monte Carlo, it was fair time, and I met this little gal, and I took her out, and all I had was a Volkswagen Bug. It was
Yeah.
an old junker, an old white one. So I went that very first night to pick her up. And I said, I do have a new car ordered. And she said, yeah, I bet you do. So I should have ran then, but I married her. It lasted 15 years, but I never will forget. I went to pick her up in that old Volkswagen and said, I've got a new car ordered. And she said, yeah, I bet you do.
Well, I've seen that Monte Carlo before too, and you really keep it good and clean. I mean, that's a big thing too with going around this or the shows is keeping them really really clean. I mean, you've done a really well job with
Yeah.
that car.
Well, I've tried to. I can't do like I used to. When I had the one I got caught doing 135 in, it was black, and I washed it twice a day when I was a kid. Because you had to keep it clean. But a clean car. Now my truck out here is pitiful, but my legs are bad. I've had 10 of those gel injections in my knees and stuff. I'd like to have had that money. I could have bought another car. They was $918 a shot. I had 10 of those, and I got 2 braces on my legs. That's $4,800. So I could have bought another car with all that stuff. But it's hell to get old, boys. Enjoy life when you're young.
So do you still believe in that lemon pledge, or do you change up your routine?
Well,
now?
I use the Armor All, but if I wouldn't be afraid to put lemon pledge on anything, man. That was right out of the day, and whoever thought of that was phenomenal. But we all used that, and stuff, and we used it on the tires and rubbed it in, and of course it make them shine and everything. It was lemon pledge was a good deal when we was kids,
Well, What's your best cleaning tip now? You have 7 cars. It's a lot to keep clean. Do you go for speed? Do you go for detail? Do you have a certain trick you use?
Or a
to get
tool
them
you just
faster?
made out of nothing, kind of like some guys use spatulas to get back in their tires and get stuff
Yeah,
clean.
well, no, but like I said, I don't keep them as clean as I used to. But if you got a clean car, it's easy to keep it clean. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But now, like this truck I bought for my son, it's got tar on it and all that. And then you got to work the whole truck over, and use either wax or grease remover. And I didn't say this on radio, but you use diesel fuel or something to take that off, and it won't harm the paint, But I can't keep one clean like I used to. But if you have a clean car, you can keep it clean if you
Mhm.
understand what I'm trying to say. And you want to make sure that you just keep wiping on it and do that. But my worst thing that I hate to use, and I've used every kind of glass cleaner in the world, and there is good out there, but I never was a glass cleaner. Looks like a 5-year-old done it when I get done. I can keep a car clean, but I'm not very good on.
Some streaks, palm prints, everything on there.
I've been thinking about getting me one of those mail order brides, maybe that's real good at cleaning windows or something.
What type of interior do you prefer, cloth or leather?
I like leather. Cloth is cooler on you. My Camaro's got cloth, but there ain't nothing like, the Armor All on that old Monte Carlo seat and slide in and you can move around and everything. But my Camaro's got
Yeah, that
got
vinyl's
cloth
definitely the stuff. for sure.
vinyls and stuff.
I'm stuck between. I have that 1970 Corvette. It's got a black leather interior,
Yeah.
and I sat down one summer with shorts and almost fused to the seat.
Yes, you will.
Oh, it'll burn you up in a heartbeat.
My son used to, he wore shorts all winter long. And he would come, he had an 84 Camaro that I lost in the divorce, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And he drove it all the time. And he come to the house one time and he had shorts, a T-shirt, a toboggan, and gloves. And I said, son, what do in the seat cold on your legs? Well, no, but my head gets cold and my hands get cold. So he had a toboggan and gloves, but he had on shorts and a T-shirt. And I'll never forget that because summertime's just like that too. It'll burn you up. But cloth is a lot better. You have a 1970. Is it a big block car or a small block?
It originally was a big block. It's got the original transmission in it still, but it's got some truck motor in it now, and it's probably not going to last this winter. My plan this winter is to pull that out and do some serious changes on the
Yeah.
car.
Or a speed car?
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
I do plan to redo it all. So it doesn't have AC in it or heat right now. I think the previous owner did some wild things, and I think he almost made it a rally car. He stripped everything non-essential out of the engine bay
Yeah.
and made some questionable decisions. And talking about driving it and getting cold, drove it once during it was winter, and I had just got it. I'm like, I gotta drive it. I really shouldn't. There's nothing on the road though, so I can drive it. I drove it, and I froze to death except for my feet. The heat of the engine, my feet were sweating so bad. It was so gross.
always wanted one of those, and I always wanted a white with red interior. I don't know why, but my very first car was white with red, and I've always liked that combination. My little truck I got is white with the blue interior, but I'm thinking about I'm thinking about putting some vinyl on it instead of paint and making it my own, like a stripe on the hood, or put. I got 3 granddaughters, and thinking about putting Ernie's Auto Sales on the door and putting them as a salesman or something, you know. And you got to make it personalized, know it's your own. That way, the cops, when they get you, they know it's you.
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
know when to pull you over.
Definitely. And which I don't know that I have to bring up something about his little project here that can be kind of controversial to a guy like me that likes the old carbureted motors. He's talking about putting like an LS motor in it. What do you think about that?
Well, if you're going to go and do a lot of traveling, I think the LS is the way to go. But a good old small block with a mild cam and a aluminum intake and a good carburetor is hard to beat. They'll go anywhere too. But I think if he's going to go to California, an LS would be the way to go. But me personally, if I was going to build one locally, I would just if it was mine, I would put another big block back in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you could probably look around and find a block.
They're available.
know.
You can find them if you look hard enough. But you mentioned pricing right now is crazy.
Yes, it's crazy.
It's going
You
to
know.
take a lot to put an LS in there too.
Oh, it
but
would. It would. Of course, you can buy LSs. Your cheapest way to buy an LS is to buy the whole car.
Mhm.
And that's the way to go and stuff. But a regular old motor with just a regular and you can put regular exhaust on it. It's something you boys probably don't know. The old cars, they had a center dump manifold. All your roundy round guys wanted that because they couldn't use headers in the figure 8 cars, but the center dump produced more horsepower. So you can use a center dump manifold and get a lot of horsepower and still the headers and do the same thing, but they're hard to find today.
I'd really like to do side pipes. I've always liked the look
Yes.
of a Corvette side pipes on
To
it.
burn your leg.
Yes, definitely invest in some heat shielding and be careful wearing shorts around it.
Yes.
But for now, it's got it's an aftermarket, no name
Yeah.
exhaust system on there from the previous owner, and it's kind of loud now. I keep getting comments from anyone I go to. They're like, "I heard you pulling up," and I'm like, "I don't think it's that loud."
You can hear him a mile away.
Yeah. I understand that and all. I had a good friend that had a stereo in his little car, and he's passed now. But when he come, my mother lived next door. She said everything in her house shaked because he had all the stereo and everything, and I miss him every day.
Yeah.
But old cars have been my life all my life, and Harrison come to me. We was talking about the rod run, and I was just going to have 1 or 2, and now I'm in my 3rd or 4th year. 2020, 21, 22. I'm in the 4th year because we started in 20 and had 2 or 3 that year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of fun. A lot of people to come and see a lot of old friends and everything. And
Well, it's also nice to see how excited Harrison gets because,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
he gets the biggest smile on his face. He goes around and talks to everybody and just loves every bit about it.
I want to tell you a little bit about that. The very first one we done, we just was going to have a rod run. I saw him at McDonald's, and it was the Friday night of the Street Rod Nationals, which is coming up here the 1st of August. And he calls me Cuz. He said, "Cuz, let's have a rod run on the square in Charlestown." And I said, "Okay." So a buddy of mine, Jeff Eisen, made us up 25 dash plaques, and he
I'm
put a
not eating
Chevy
all
2
that.
and my buddy Jimmy Walden's
Oh, my Lord.
55 Chevy on there. And it wasn't either one of our cars, just those 2 cars was on it. And he had
I'll
on
take a
there
muffin,
Ernie
that's for
and
sure.
Harrison rod run. Well, we had about, I don't know, 40 cars probably. So Harrison puts his arm around me. He's 6'2" kid, and he said, "Cuz, you know what's wrong with this, don't you?" I said, "No, Harrison, what?" He said, "If we'd have called this the Harrison and Ernie rod run, we'd have had a lot more cars." So Scott Heineman was there, good buddy of mine that does upholstery work, and I went over and I said, "Scott, you want to sponsor some dash plaques? Let's have one with your name on it, and we'll say Harrison Ernie Rod Run." He said, just gave me the money, and I went and seen a guy named Potsy, and he does them for us, and got those. But what Harrison didn't know is I got on that phone and called everybody I knew. I called Salem guys in Scottsburg, and we had 87 cars the next
Wow.
show. Of course, he put that big arm around me and said, "See, cuz they all know me." And I said, "I'm glad they do, Harrison, because nobody knows me, and stuff." But we just kept it going. And like I said, now I'm in my 4th year, and the people sponsor the dash bikes. Mason has sponsored one with
Yep.
his family that he does, which he does the car show at the high school, which is a phenomenal thing. And I didn't get to go the first one. My mother was sick, but I've been to the others, and stuff. But my favorite is a rod run because there's no judging. You just pull up and have a good time and talk to everybody and go on.
It's amazing how tight knit the community is. I mean, especially once you get to know these guys, you see them at multiple shows throughout the year, and they always just come up, talk to you, have a great time. And they're also guys that that if you got their phone number and stuff, you can call them out of the blue, and they're going to come help you with anything you got to get done.
Well, and they don't knock your car. In other words, what I've got is maybe something you guys don't like, but they don't walk up and say, "Well, I don't like that." I mean, they're respectful enough that they walk up and say, "That's nice, Arnie," or they don't say nothing at all. But I've been to shows where people walk by and go, "God, that's ugly. Look at that paint," and you don't do people that way. That guy's proud as that as if he had a brand new Cadillac,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't treat people that way.
Some people are passionate and they just don't have the $20,000 to spend on a paint job.
No. We was talking about paint jobs. When I originally painted that first Chevy 2, I bought the paint and Mr. Lyons painted it for $100. He put 11 quarts of paint on it for me. We had 6 quarts of white and 5 quarts of clear, and had diamond dust metal flake. But he wanted his name out there, and he charged me $100 to paint my Chevy 2 in the 70s, and it was phenomenal. I mean, it was so thick that I chipped it, and back then Crazy Glue was in, and I put a little Crazy Glue on that and glued it on part of the trunk where I had chipped it off, and you couldn't even see it. It was that thick, the paint was.
Wow.
And stuff. So.
Well, I got a good question because I know whenever we did our first episode, we talked about what if money wasn't an object per se, what would be your dream car that you could just, if you could buy it today, write the check, doesn't matter what it is?
My goodness. I would probably buy another 64 Chevy 2 that I had, the very first car, because I've been sick ever since the day I sold it. And I know there's other cars that's more valuable. I'd like to have a 63 split window Corvette, but if I could go buy my original 64 Chevy 2 back today, even at probably $100,000, I would try to buy it because that was my very first car. And it's just, I guess it's like your first love. You never forget that, and I would really like to have that car back. I have put feelers out, and a kid in like Greenville had it, but I've never been able to find it. Of course, it's probably bad shape now because I sold it in 77, and I'm sure that it's probably a Toyota now or something,
Well, I really appreciate having you on. It's been a great time. You've taught us a lot of things that we never knew from due to our lack of experience in this all.
I just hope I never touch anything bad.
Oh, no.
I wrote all those things down, so
Yeah,
we'll be sure we did there.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I want to drive that Corvette, though.
Me too. Me too.
Well,
Not that big block in it, though.
yeah.
But,
But we've-
I've got a friend that's a big Corvette guy. If you need to know anything, just call me.
I'll be sure.
In fact, I talked to him about a half hour last night. He's an old friend, and I think he's got 5 or 6 of them. He's got V.V. Cook's original red, white, and blue one.
Really?
Yeah, it was an odd red, white, and blue. The interior's red, the car's blue with a white stripe, and you never seen it, but it was a beautiful car. Beautiful.
Check it out sometime.
And he owns it to this day. It's supposed to be on the road soon, and I can't wait because I can remember seeing it back in the day. But I was always passionate with a red, white, and blue. I don't know. I guess I was a good-hearted American.
Well, like I said, we really appreciated having you on. This has been Kicking the Tires, and we hope to have you back again sometime later on down the road.
I've got more stories than Walt Disney does, boys. I can talk to you anytime.
We'll look forward to it then.
All right, man. It's nice talking to you guys.
Thank you.
For having me.